Ambassador Petricioli has served as Mexico's ambassador to our country since February of 1989, but his experience in the United States dates much farther back than that. Following his graduation from the Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo in Mexico City, he received his master's degree in economics from Yale University. From thence, he began a 19-year career at the Bank of Mexico, ending in 1967. Between 1967 and 1988, he served in numerous positions of critical economic importance, including Undersecretary of the Treasury and Public Credit for Tax Revenue, as President of the National Securities Commission, as General Director of the Nacional Financiera and General Coordinator of the Mexican Banking System, as well as finally Secretary of the Treasury and Public Credit, before he took on his current role of ambassador to our country. He also served between 1952 and 1970 as professor of economics at various Mexican institutions of higher education. I think we are very interested in what's happening in the banking industry in our own country, and I have no doubt that we shall be equally interested in hearing from the ambassador what is happening both economically and politically in general in his country. I know that you will join me then in giving Ambassador Gustavo Petricioli a warm welcome to the Council. Thank you. Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much for this warm welcome, warm in all respects. Very happy to be here. And I appreciate that this important institution, this important body, invite the Ambassador of Mexico to have an exchange of point of view about what is going on in the world, what is going on in Mexico, and what are our perspectives. Let me start explaining to you that there are three categories of English in the world. The UK English, American English, and my own peculiar English. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm going to use the last one because it's the only one that I can manage. Sorry. Well, what is happening in Mexico today is in a way reflection, is an effect on what is going on in the world. What is we trying to do in my country? We cannot explain it if we cannot see the context, the framework, what is happening around the world. We are seeing in our times different types of changes, very important changes all over the world. And Mexico, seeing all these changes, want to be part of this new system, this new world that this is appearing in our planet. I think all of us are amazed what we are seeing in Europe, Eastern Europe, Soviet Union, Pacific Rim, all over the world. And we are receiving good news almost every day. Let me point out that the sign now of our times is change. It's the first thing that we need to see very clear. We are changing. Everybody changes. Nobody, or almost nobody, opposes the changes. First, recognize that change is the key. If we don't change, everybody, you are going to be left behind. It's time to change. Change is everywhere, and we Mexicans want to change. Second, everybody looks in this change for the better, and we are very lucky. But what happened is the change is in the right direction. Maybe some people thought or were afraid of the changes because we were afraid and they were in the wrong direction, the changes. But unfortunately, the changes are mainly in the good direction. And we are all happy in the world what is going to happen. First change, second, the change in the right direction. Third point, who are making the changes? The people. The people. This is very important because we are seeing the technological advances, the conceptual changes, the technical changes, but the real deep changes that we are watching in our days are done by the people. The people is making the changes. Nobody is saying the people what the changes should be, what the direction is be. The people, or most of the people all over the world, are looking for changes, and they want to have changes quickly and in the right directions. Fourth, all these changes call for people with visions, with people with long-range horizon, not just worry what is going on today or next week, but people that has this horizon on the future, people that is thinking about the next century, the next millennium, and people is trying to keep at the same time some values, some permanent values. There are changing political, social, changes in the political field, in the social field, in the economic field, many, but at the same time, the people wants to keep certain values, certain identities, certain, well, again, values. I don't know how to say it, but I think I make clear. And to keep each country, each society, some forms of life that they agree or they believe they are the best ones. It's difficult to me to explain, but what I'm trying to say is that we are not looking and we are not expecting that each country, each society, each community is going to think alike, is going to feel alike, is going to react alike, is going to be exactly at the next society. I mean, we need to be aware that all these changes, economic changes in terms of free markets, political changes in terms of democracy, in terms of integration of economic blocks, we are going to have a world that everybody, every country, every society is going to be exactly alike. We are different as individuals, as societies, and we are going to be different in terms of our values and about our national values, but with the same goals, the same purposes. I think it's a mistake asking to other country, to other society, to be exactly like ourselves. If we put it in terms of persons, individuals, we have the same goals, the same values, a love for our family, but we are not asking any member of our family to think exactly than ourselves, to have the same taste, the same way of reactions about everything with our family. The important thing is to have the same goals. In my example, the family goals, but we are not asking our wife, our parents, our children to be exactly like we are. And I think this is going to be important, to have this respect for all societies, all cultures, all kind of identities, if we share the same basic values and the same goal. Well, Mexico, my country, is looking to be part of this new world. We want to be actor. We want to be a factor in a way in this new world and not just to be left behind and watch what is going on in the world. In economic terms, we want to be part of this new structure where competition is going to be the name of the game. Now, we're very lucky, all the mankind, because we left behind the risk of wars, at least nuclear wars, confrontation, Cold War, Star Wars. Now we are thinking in terms of cooperation and in terms of competition in the economic sphere of the world. And US and Mexico, of course, we are going to compete with the European economic unity. We are going to compete, US and Mexico, with the Japanese dream. We are going to compete with many other areas. The question is, are we going to be better off in this competition, US alone, vis-a-vis the rest of the world? Are we Mexicans are going to be better off if we compete with our own resources alone against this integration of the world? My answer is no. I think, I'm convinced that if we joined our efforts in this competition for the future, we are going to be better off both countries. Why? Because there is a complementation in our economies. You have in the US, because of your effort, generations, many things to share. But we believe that in Mexico, with our position, modest position, very modest relatively to the US, we can cooperate with the US in this economic competition. We have natural resources, we have labor, we have a population with a discipline, with a very good values that we can combine with the US and to be a very significant market. And maybe, and we are looking also forward to have Canada in this, and we can have the largest market in the world, Canada, US, and Mexico, in benefit of the three countries. But there are another possibility, and I don't think we are dreaming. President Bush said a couple of weeks ago, the possibility to have a free trade zone in all our hemisphere, to combine our forces, our resources, to work together in benefit of everybody. Maybe for many people, they are thinking that we are dreaming, and this is not possible. Well, maybe many people in the prehistory, I mean 8, 10 months ago, than was the prehistory. To think that they are going to be destroyed, the Berlin Wall, was a dream. Or at least they believe that someday, some long future, they are going to see it. But suddenly, the people decide, we are going to drop the wall. But this is not just the material, the physical Berlin Wall. It's not physical wall. Maybe it's more difficult to drop the mental walls, the attitudes or the how to say, the ideas of the people, than they are afraid of changes. But I think that the people realize what is going to be the future for this country or for my own country. I think we can think, why don't we get together? I was speaking about changes. We can change almost everything, but we cannot change geography. Geography. I don't hear here in this country any plan that US is going to move to any other place of the planet. And certainly Mexico is going to be where we are, and we don't have any plans. That means that geography makes us neighbors. History, cultural values, economic situation, economic difference make us the possibility of complementation. From my point of view, it's not going to be a game where somebody is going to win and somebody is going to lose. There is going to be a win and win combination for Mexico and for the US if we enter in this free trade zone. But not just in terms of trading more, that is very important. By the way, in the last 3 years, our trade grew in very significant form. US is exporting to Mexico $25 billion last year, for instance, and 3 years ago, there were 12 million less. I mean, in 3 years, the US economy export to Mexico $12 billion more. That means more jobs in the US. And with the trade arrangement, there is not any doubt that we can have a triple, quadruple, or maybe tenfold this export to Mexico. That means a lot of millions of jobs in the US. And of course, we are looking also for more access, more free access to our exports in this country. In order to be possible for us to compete, not just with US, but with everybody, we made already very significant, deep changes in our structure, in our economic structure. Not too many years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we're having an inflation of 200% in the annual basis. Now we are having an inflation at 20%. It's still high, but it's 1/10 than we have it just a month before. We have a deficit, a budget deficit, a government deficit from 8 points of GNP. Imagine, 8 points of GNP were our deficit. Now we have a surplus, and it was not easy to do it. Some years ago, 5, 6 years ago, we were the closest economy in the world. Not any other country was so close to trade as Mexico. Now, I don't think there is any country that is so open from trade that Mexico. Some years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, all the imports in Mexico were subject to permit, to license, all of them. Now, just a few, very handy few for special reasons. Every is open in Mexico. 3-4 years ago, we have an average of 100% in duties, import duties. Now our average is 10%, 1/10 than we have. I mean, we are talking about real changes in the Mexican economy. Some years ago, the government owns a very significant portion of the GNP of the industry, commerce, services in the Mexican economy. We are in the very quick process selling everything. Now we sold already the airlines, 2 big airlines. We are in the process to sell telephones. We are going to sell, already approved the selling, the privatization of the banking system. And we are making a lot of change in the good direction because we need to prepare ourselves for competition because we know very clear that, again, competition is going to be the name of the game. And competition is not going to be easy for us, but I think it's not going to be easy for anybody, any country. And I think we should take serious the possibility to join efforts in benefit of our countries. I think we can make together the cake really, really bigger for everybody. We are going to have together a very large cake for both countries. Maybe some pieces of the cake are going to be different than we have it today. But the cake, no doubt, is going to be larger. What I'm trying to say is that both we are going to pay some price, some sacrifice, but at the end, the children of our children, they are going to be better off than today, and we are going to live in peace and with very good friends as neighbors here in this part of the world, US, Canada, and Mexico, and I hope the rest of the hemisphere. Thank you very much.
The observation was that the gentleman has heard that there's more oil in Mexico than on the Arabian Peninsula. Is there truth to this, and is Mexico doing as much as it can to exploit its oil resources?
Really, honestly, I don't know the answer. I am not an expert. I know that we have a very significant reserves. I know that we didn't have the resources. We don't have the resources to check or to explore more. There is, in a way, a guessing question. The Arabs has already explored, and they quantified, measured the reserves. We didn't, but the one that we know are really very significant. Maybe they are not larger than the Arabs, maybe right now, but we Mexicans, we don't know yet the possibilities of this industry.
Could you wait just 1 second? We'll be right back to you. At the microphone, please.
Your Excellency, an article in yesterday's Washington Post stated that the free trade area will tend to exacerbate the flow of illegal immigrants into the United States. In view of the United States' obvious unwillingness or inability to enforce its immigration laws, what kinds of positive things can Mexico do to hold its young and productive workers within its system?
Well, I think the effect of this project is going to be exactly in the other way. The main reason that we are looking to this access to the foreign markets is because we need to create jobs in Mexico for the Mexican people. And with our domestic market, our domestic savings, our domestic possibilities, we are going to go behind our goals. And the best solution for us is to promote trade and foreign investments in Mexico. If we export more, we are going to, and we want to export goods, merchandise, not people. I think we are very happy, very proud, and we look forward to have our people living, working in Mexico. And the question is, and it's not really an option, at least from our point of view, we don't want to send people. We want to send goods, merchandise, and not just here in this country, but to Europe, Japan, and everywhere else. We want to keep the Mexicans in Mexico and to progress with them. We need it back in Mexico.
Yes,
thank you.
Your follow-up to the oil question.
Mr. Ambassador, I believe I read the statistic, and you can correct it if you know it to be not so, but that the policy was that only 50% of the oil that would come out of the ground of Mexico was allowed to be exported to the U.S. And I guess whether there are, a lot more, there's a lot more oil under there. Whatever oil Mexico brings up, is there going to be a greater percentage of it exported to the U.S. than was in the past?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in that field, but let me tell you this. In 8 years ago, 75%, three-quarters of our total earnings from abroad, from export, came from oil. And today, just maybe 30% of our earnings from export came to oil. That means that we made a real effort to diversify our economy and to sell many things in a state of oil. We learned the terrible experience when in '82 the price of oil dropped from $40 barrel to $8 or $9. We lost in 1 year the equivalent, the total value of all of our agricultural production, more than a third than fiscal revenue. Well, we were broke because we lost everything with the oil. We don't want to be in the game. We want to use oil, of course. If we can sell oil, we are very happy. But we are not going to invest our resources just in oil. One of the explanations of the Mexican high external debt is because we asked for many terrible amount to invest in oil, thinking, or maybe somebody was thinking, that we are going to keep these very high prices, and we were in a terrible situation. The economic problems, and with effect in the political problems that we have in the last 10 years, were because we put everything in oil, and we have that surprise. That doesn't mean that we are not interested to develop our oil resources, but not just oil. We need to do something else.
Yes, sir, at the microphone.
Your Excellency,
Yes.
There's no doubt that you've made great economic progress in Mexico. But so far, I have not heard anything about improving of educational standards, which are absolutely necessary, I would think, to improve the overall economy of Mexico. Can you address that, sir?
Yes. I agree absolutely with you. You are correct. I think the main resources, the fundamentals, the basic resource of any country is the human resources. And if we are going to invest in any country, in anything, first we need to invest in the humans, in the people, education, health, everything. Because of the lack of resources, between many things, we are a poor country. Because of what I was saying about the crisis of oil crisis, debt crisis, and all kinds of crises, we didn't have the resources to improve our education. Another reason, the lack of resources, was that we were running a terrible, big, large government, enterprises. And now the decision that President Salinas took was, do I need to have the banks to be part of the government, to have the assets of the banks, or is better to sell the banks and put more money in education? And the option was clear, to sell the banks, to sell the airlines, and to put the money basically in education. Yes, I agree. We need to put a lot of more in education. And also with the growing of our population is our main challenge, education. But we are conscious when this is going to be the main challenge. Invest in the people, education.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, at the microphone.
When President Salinas was elected, there was widespread skepticism about the integrity of the process, specifically the vote count. Do you think that we will ever see a really free national election in Mexico? And do you think that anyone can prevail on PRI to give up power if there is a truly free election?
Well, absolutely. First, while it's not the right moment to argue about the validity of our last presidential election. We know and we believe that President Salinas won the presidential election, but a small margin, yes, but he won. Well, anyhow, let's leave it at that. But according with the polls, today polls, 80% of the people in Mexico agree with President Salinas' policies in all terms. You see, the economic changes in Mexico, the deep economic changes in Mexico, have been, in a way, some spectacular, and everybody knows more or less about it. But in the political field, they have been a lot, and we are going to have more changes at the same pace. But it's easy to watch the changes in the economic field, and it's not so easy to say it in the political field. But let's see, last year, for the first time in our history, we have an election that won by the opposition, the state of Baja California, Baja. The opposition won the elections, and we are very comfortable, and everybody is working, and nothing happened. The PRI lost the elections, and we lost elections in many other districts and in some, with some mayors in other parts of the city. And now President Salinas and the party is changing in the political scenery with, I think, honestly, I believe that we are going to have good results. What changes are these? First, we are trying to change, and we're changing the party. This is very important, to change the party. To have a party more democracy, more democratic within the party. Not just to appoint the candidates, but to select with the participation of the people, and we are now doing this. We are changing all the electoral laws, all the system of the registers, all the bodies. We have now an independent body to qualify the elections. I agree that we have a road of progress in terms of democracy and in politics, but also we are changing that, and I think with the benefits of all the economic system, the new economic system, it's going to be easier to make more changes in the political sphere. Well, anyhow, now in the lower chamber, in the House, in the Representative House, we have all the parties of the opposition. Mexico is a plural political country, no doubt about it, and we have a lot of opposition in the House, and there are all the parties there represented. I think at least for me, I can present figures and facts in the economic field. It's not easy to feel the changes, deep changes in the political structure in Mexico, but believe me, we are making very significant changes.
Yes, sir.
On that note, and in view of your previous comments, I wonder if I could ask a question that shifts the focus to the south, to Mexico's neighbors. Historically, Mexico has had a very independent foreign policy that is independent in regard to the United States. And I wonder, in view of the recent changes in Nicaragua and in Panama and in Cuba, or I should say the changes elsewhere in the world that cause us to view Cuba in a new way, has Mexico begun to change its policy toward these neighbors?
The direct question is, has Mexico, in fact, begun to change its policies toward Cuba and Nicaragua and those states, in light especially of the changes that have taken place, presumably in Eastern Europe?
Panama as well.
And Panama as well.
Well, you see, I was saying that we can work together with the U.S. and have the same objectives, the same goals, the same purposes, being different. And we are different in many respects. And one of these differences is in terms of history, in terms of culture, in terms of institutions, in terms of foreign policy. You, in the U.S., have a global responsibility in the foreign policy. We don't have that responsibility, but we really care for at least everybody, all the world, but mainly in Central America. And we always have saying that the bottom line, the real problem in Central America was not so philosophical, political differences, but the poverty of the people. At the bottom line, in our point of view, is an economic problem. But if we can help to solve the economic problem, we are going to have a better democracy in the better shape of the people. And sometimes we disagree with the U.S. in terms of strategy or in terms of the how to solve the problems in Central America, and we always insist that the right way to do it is helping the economic development of those nations. And certainly we have, from time to time, different points of view about what is going on there. But now we are living a new situation in Central America. We have democracy on all the countries of Latin America, and all Latin America, not just Central America. And now I think is a historical opportunity to promote, to develop those countries, to be sure that they are going to be in the democratic system. Cuba is a special, very special case that is going to be solved by themselves. I mean, well, I don't want to say anything now. But in Central America, I think, I am not saying forget what happened in the past, but I'm saying let's get together with some program to help those people in all Central American countries, and we are going to have democracy forever. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At the microphone, yes, sir.
Buenas tardes, Excelencia.
¿Cómo está?
Bienvenido a Baltimore.
Gracias.
Especialmente de la comunidad mexicana de aquí, del estado de Maryland. I have two questions for you. One is, what has been the effect of the Civil War in Central America, especialmente in Nicaragua, in El Salvador? We've seen in the Washington metropolitan area, we have almost 350,000 refugees from those countries. Also, is the Contadora process, is it dead?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, we are very sorry again what happened in Central America, and we care really for our brothers from Central America. And with the U.S., from time to time, having some difference, we agree in the fundamentals. What we want to Central American people? Progress and peace. Nobody wants war, nobody wants poverty. We need to make any effort to have peace and to have progress in all Central American countries. I think we need to have a sort of mini Marshall Plan, everybody, to help Central America. We need to open our markets to Central American products. We need to promote investment in Central America. We need to link our cultural ties with Central America. There is a lot of things to do. And in general terms, the situation in Central America is much better. We're terribly sorry what happened with that region, but I am optimist about what is going on. Even in El Salvador, I don't know what is going to happen with the talks between the opposition and the government, but at least there are at the table of negotiations, and I don't know what is going to happen, but at least there is a possibility to establish a system of peace in El Salvador and in the rest of Central America.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I have two questions if there's time. I'm not sure. First one, you state that you'd like to see Canada, America, and Mexico work together. What specifically would you like seeing done to promote this? Laws, whatever?
Well, to start with, to have a free trade agreement, not just with the U.S. We are going to try to have it first with the U.S. because it's very difficult to negotiate or to think in the trilateral agreement of this. Just bilateral is very complex, but not to have it trilateral. But if we make some arrangement with the U.S., immediately, at least Mexico is going to look for a similar agreement with Canada. And Canada already have the agreement with the U.S. But not just in terms of trade, in terms to sell more, and this key is very important, but to have more cultural ties, more technological ties, tourism, relation people to people, because we governments can do a lot of things, but we cannot substitute the relation between people to people. And we hope that with trade, business, investment, it's going to be a larger movement between our countries in order to know each other better and to understand us better. I find out that the general impression that there is in Mexico about the U.S. is not always the best one. There is a lot of distortion, a lot of cliches, a lot of, I don't know how to explain, but also here in the U.S., many people don't understand Mexico, and they have also cliches and attitude about Mexico. And with more business, with more trade, more movements, more participation of the young people as yourself, to go in Mexico, to study in Mexico, I think to learn another language always can be useful, another culture, and why don't you go to Mexico and...
Can I ask my second question?
I think, or Canada. No, there are many things that we can do together. In fishery and in forest, of course, in terms of environment, in terms of drugs. If we fight the three countries together in terms of drugs, and environment, forest, many things we can do together.
That brings me to my second question, sir. Yes. What are you doing about drugs in your country? Are they as major a problem as they appear to be in America?
Well, you see, we don't have really the drugs problem in Mexico, but we are scared that we might have it, especially with the young people. We are fighting drugs in Mexico, not because somebody tells us to do it, but because of the health of of our young, because of the national security approach. We know what is going on in other parts of the world. It's a problem of national security. It's a problem of corruption. Drugs corrupt many people, many sectors in all countries. We need to fight drugs and avoid that our people start using drugs. Mexico has been using as a trampoline, as a way to send the drugs to the US market. We don't produce in Mexico cocaine. We don't have it. We don't have coca. We are used in this. And we are fighting a terrible war to avoid that all these drugs that come from any other places, came to this market. And really, I think in the US, they don't know the terrible fight that we are doing. We just have in the last year almost 140 agents, policemen were killed by the drugs people in Mexico. And I cannot say that we are winning the war, but we are doing our best. And I think if we keep in this pace, we are going to have what we are looking to have, Mexico free of drugs. And I hope that the drugs traffickers doesn't find any other way to go to the US, because they are going to use other ways to enter in the market. I think the drug problem is very complicated. It's a problem of demand, supply, transportation, laundering. It's very, very complex. And I think it's maybe without any doubt, the more important challenge that we have to avoid drugs in this country and to avoid them in Mexico. We might have the problem. We don't want to have that terrible problem. And again, it's education.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ambassador, you spoke only briefly, but spoke very favorably about the privatization of the Mexican economy. You said that the sale of the nationalized banks and the sale of the telephone system, all this is going to be very helpful to people in Mexico, that they're going to use the money for education. You did not mention, I have read anyhow, that the century-old communal farming system in Mexican villages, the ejido system, is about to be broken up, and you're going to privatize that too. My question is this, Mr. Ambassador: how will all this, in the long run, benefit poor Mexican farmers or benefit poor Mexican workers in the long run? I'm not speaking of any immediate amount of money that might be turned over for some good social purposes. How does this help poor Mexican people? And I assume there are a lot of them from what I read.
Yes. I think you're right, sir. We have a real challenge, a problem with the agricultural sector in Mexico. But not all the Mexican soil, the Mexican superficie, the Mexican areas are with the ejido system. There are private property and small property and all kinds of different systems. But we have still the ejido system. But in some regions of the country, the ejido system is not doing so bad. I mean, it's working, especially with small areas with export, some products with a high value that you can have and in a small piece of land. For instance, asparagus or broccoli or something, things like that, you can have it with ejido. I am not saying that it's the best system, but you can have it. But also we have the pressure of the people millions of people working in the land. But if we can develop the industry, the service, the tourism, the general investment in all the country, in the coast and everywhere, we are going to take out the pressure in the land. Then we have too many people now in the land. And we need, as in this country and other countries, I don't remember the numbers now, the percentage of the total population and is working in the agricultural sector here or in any other countries. But in Mexico it's very high. And we need to put more people. It's a process of development in the other services and industry and many other activities. And we need to improve the rural system. I see your concerns, and I share your concern. Thank you, sir.
Your Excellency, we enjoyed a great deal your effort of at least introducing the joint venture between Mexico, the United States, and Canada to improve economic condition of the countries within their own territories as well as abroad. As recently as 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, President Bush made a remark that due to the fact that Mexico, among the Central American countries, have a great deal of problem in terms of maintaining proper record of payment of interest and principal to the banks of the United States, the thought was expressed perhaps all of it, a good deal of it, could be written off if the government of Mexico spent that money to improve environmental matters of the state of Mexico. My question is, if such a thing goes through the Department of Treasury and Banking Commission and Committee in the Senate, are you folks in a position, you're representing the government of Mexico, are you folks in a position to create some jobs, improving environmental matters in Mexico? And by doing that, it seems to me it should create a great deal of relief for poverty that you were talking so seriously about in Mexico.
Your second. I didn't get
The question, I think, Mr. Ambassador, is whether Mexico is prepared to take sums of money somewhat equivalent to forgiven debts by American banks and devote that to environmental and social programs.
Improvement, and doing that, can you do it by yourself or you need technical assistance from the United States?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You are talking about that if we are ready or not to put in the market swaps, natural, whatever name you did, debt, natural, debt something swaps, instead of the equity debt or debt equity swaps. Yes, we are ready to put in the market these sort of swaps in certain amount. One of the problems with swaps is that have an inflationary effect in the economy because it's the creation of money in the country that we don't have. It's a net effect in the money supply. And we believe, we planned, that we can handle $3 billion in a period of 3 years. And we can absorb that. And certain amount of these $3 billion, they are going to be put in the environment protection or environment works. Another part is going to be in the infrastructure of the border. And the rest are going to be in the buying or bidding for Mexican industry, and so on and so forth. Yes, we are going to use swaps. We are going to put swaps in the market for that purposes, and that's it.
Mr. Ambassador, we appreciate very much your spending so much time with us this evening, and we hope that the multitude of causes that you've talked about bear fruit, and that together our nation, Canada, and others might find a happier place several decades down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
for your time. Thanks very much.